Counselor Gilmer.
Counselor Gilmer present.
Counselor Schenkel present.
Counselor Childers present.
Mayor Kaiser present.
Council President Vermillion present.
Councilor Bartholomew present.
Dan Huff, City Manager present.
City Recorder Christy Teets present.
Water Quality Superintendent Seth Kelly present.
Violet.
No, Violet Brown, 3J Consulting present.
Planning Manager Dan Zinder present.
Matt Corthell, Assistant City Manager, present.
Did I hear a new title?
You heard correctly,
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, please note that if a counselor wishes to discuss a major policy issue that is not on the agenda, it should be raised during new business for consideration at a future work session or meeting, not during the current meeting. Decisions cannot be voted on during work session. We also will not be doing public comment during work session. Up first, urban growth boundary discussion item. Mr. Zinder, can we have your staff report, please?
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. If you don't mind, I'm going to get things started here, and then I'm going to pass it off to Dan and Violet. We're actually going to start with item number 4 on the list tonight. If you scroll through to page 3 of 3 in your staff report, it says contact with the governor's office on the northern expansion of our UGB. It's just one of the items within your work session staff report there. And so I'm going to start off with that. We did have a meeting.
Not in our work session.
It is the bottom item. If you scroll all the way down to the 3rd page of the
Item
work session.
4 on page 5.
Going in reverse
This one?
order.
Okay. Sorry, got it.
Did everyone find it?
Yep.
Okay. Councilor Bartholomew, were you able to find it, sir?
This one, right? Yeah.
All right, looks like everyone is, okay, great. So item number 4 is contact with the governor's office on the northern expansion of our UGB. We as you guys know, we've submitted a couple of memorandums to the governor's office, to Regional Solutions, which is an arm of the governor's office as well, and to their housing production specialist coordinator. I'm not sure his title, but he's kind of leading the charge on housing in the state. And so we did hear back from them on our second memo, and set a meeting, and that happened today at 1 o'clock. The meeting went well. We don't have any answers right now, but what we did get was very positive, a very positive interaction and no closed doors. More or less the discussion was okay. They wanted to better understand a couple of the points that we were making regarding the cost of development in the southern part of town and some of that stuff, so that they could take it to the governor and know that we were all on the same sheet of music. So they are taking that to the governor's office, and so that's very positive. We will find out more on that. I don't have a whole lot on it right now, other than to say the door is not closed, and we had a very positive meeting today that will result in this thing going up to the governor's office for further review and potential discussion. So we're still moving down that road, which is great. Did I miss anything on that, either of you?
I don't think we did.
No? Okay,
No,
great.
you didn't.
I wanted to make sure, because I'm trying to recount a
So
conversation.
in layman's terms, basically the discussion consisted of north over south and how the city feels that the UGB moving at the north end is much better than the south end, correct?
Yes, and mostly in terms of cost prohibition to build or construct in the south versus the north.
Okay.
So they just had a few clarifying questions that ended up being the subject matter of the meeting to clarify some of the points that we were making before they do take it to the governor, so they made sure they were delivering the message that we wanted delivered. And so we think there's possible fruit there, but we have to wait, and we're on wait and see mode, is the long and the short of it. But no doors closed, so that's great, and it seemed like a very positive meeting to everyone, to all of our folks that were there. So that's item number 4, and then I'm just going to really quickly touch on item number 2 and 3. I'm not even going to go into them, but these items are just kind of getting you guys some information and answers to some of the questions that you had last meeting. So these don't really bear much on the ordinance that you guys will be hearing later tonight at the regular session. They're just answers to your questions and kind of an opportunity to discuss those. And then item 1 does have a little bit more bearing on the ordinance that you'll see tonight with efficiency measures. And so I just wanted to make sure we drew a distinction between all those things, that we're kind of operating in different worlds for each item on this list. And I didn't want them to get all conflated into where's the UGB growing. So really 2 and 3 are just about the overall UGB process. 4, the contact with the governor's office, that's really about the direction of a potential expansion. And 1 is really about the efficiency measures portion of that UGB process that we've talked about, that starts with the H&A, then the EOA, which you guys know, and then we move into efficiency measures to say, hey, what's that big number that we got for acreage that's needed based on the EOA and H&A? Now you need to look at the land you've got to make sure it's being used as efficiently as possible and put forward some things that you can do to make it more efficient. And that provides a reduction in your needed acreage for a UGB expansion. So anyways, that's that in a nutshell, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Zinder and our consultant Violet Brown from 3J Consulting. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mac. So yeah, as Mac was saying, the next 2 items, 2 and 3, are basically a couple of questions that have come from the council for us to go back and look a little more at. I think that's going to be typical of this UGB process. The whole thing is a big beast, and we're just going to need to address some questions as they come and try to get the whole picture for you. So the first question, and we put this one to our attorney staff, and they returned basically the same answer that we've been passing on, is this question of what happens if we go through this process and then we don't pass the amendment. What recourse does DLCD have? And then the response back was basically, our understanding is that DLCD probably doesn't want to do it, but ultimately what they can do is, withhold funding from projects, and then ultimately they can take over the planning department. So basically, they would come in and run the department and try to get an amendment passed through. And that's it seems like it's going to be an unlikely outcome, as it would involve a lot of resources on their end, and they'd want to be looking at mitigating steps in the interim. But that is sort of the ultimate enforcement action that could be taken. So there's that piece. Are there any questions regarding that? There's not really a whole lot more information regarding that. So
We're basically saying we need to do it.
yeah, so we do need to do it. The second question, which is a little more involved, and it's come from a number of members of our community, is our H&A and EOA used population estimate numbers from Portland State University's 2022 population forecasts. We did that just because it was the point in time that we worked on our H&A. But in subsequent years, there have been estimates that have been revised downward from that point. Generally, that's true across Oregon, just due to immigration and fertility rates and things of that nature. They've been revising the estimates downward in recent years. So the question was, is it possible to revise our numbers to utilize some of these more updated counts? It's something that on its face, seems reasonable, not opposed. If you want to go for a smaller expansion, that's the way you go about it. The mechanics of it are pretty foreboding, I would say. They create it creates a lot of obstacles. The main one being is that we wouldn't be able to simply do an amendment to our H&A. We would actually have to go back and start the process over, because so much of the subsequent information is based on those population forecasts. So the short of it is that and then compounding that, it would push the work at least into 2027, which and DLCD has been a little hesitant to comment on it because they're currently in the rulemaking process, but it would likely put us under different guidelines from the Oregon Housing Needs, housing needs
Basically,
analysis.
we'd have to start this whole process.
Basically, we'd have to
over.
start the whole thing over.
So we don't want to do it.
And like, yeah, likewise, it would be, probably $75,000 for a grant, and then we'd likely have to update our HPS on that.
Yeah.
And so I can let Violet talk a little bit more about that, but it
Yeah, I'll
sounds
just
like
say,
we're going the right direction.
You know, as much as I love working with you guys, it would mean doing it all over again. And so it's been a lovely experience, but I don't know that you guys want to necessarily do that. On one hand, it looks like, from kind of stepping back and not doing this every day, you might think like, oh, okay, if they said we were going to grow by this amount and we needed 1,996 units, and now we're going to grow by half, can't we just kind of cut that in half and get half the space? But again, the H&A is really looking at the housing market. So it talks about not only what the population is, but you may recall from the document, it talks about the population, it talks about the local economy, the housing market, what size of units are these single family, what percentage is single family, what percentage is multifamily. And the new rules are coming out. It looks like under ONA, they're gonna come out, it's expected to be effective January of 2026. So a lot of the work, people who haven't already started their work are being told to wait to start a new process. So you guys kind of got in before that because you were already in the process of doing it. Those new rules, we're not really sure what they are yet, but we do know that across the board, they're considered to be much stricter, particularly in terms of looking at vulnerable populations and low-income housing. The H&A that you have adopted as of now says, I think it says like 55% single family, and then, small units, multifamily, things like that. It gives you the percentages of the housing mix. And then it says affordability is an issue and it should be sort of affordable for all. It doesn't give you like a certain number of target of like you need to hit this number for this income bracket versus that income bracket, which might be something that would be required under future rules. So it would be redoing the whole H&A, not just saying, well, we're going to grow by half, let's kind of amend it to discount it for a smaller population. It would be whole other market analysis. So again, that would take the funding of what went into doing this in the first place. It would mean spending that again and the time. Yeah, Mayor.
So basically, in a nutshell, we're gonna rewind almost 3 years worth of work. The grant that we got, obviously, I believe pays your services. That doesn't include the hundreds of hours that city staff has also put into this, their wages and time. It's not feasible to just rewind this process and say, boom, we're starting over again, because the population's gonna take us down maybe 5 acres.
And I will, if I can add one other thing that I forgot to mention the first time around, is also, we do see fluctuations in the housing, in the population projections, their projections. They kind of ebb and flow a bit based on these rates, and death rates and birth rates. At the same time, COVID was not something that anybody really anticipated, and so I think when we're looking at the fact that the 2023 H&A was looking at numbers from 2021 from the census that was answered, and so I do think that there have been some adjustments. We may actually see as if next year or the year after that those maybe get adjusted back to be higher numbers. We don't know. And the fact that we would have to maybe wait for the new rules, get funding for a new H&A, go through the process, you could find yourself here in a year and a half saying, well, we redid it all and now our numbers are back up. So again, there's a benefit for saying, this was the number when we started the process and we've devoted taxpayer dollars to it, and we have a plan that's adopted. So, and again, it would be a new H&A, and then with the new H&A, you would need a new housing production strategy in order to target it to those exact needs and how you were gonna, so it would be kind of all of that. I don't believe, my understanding is I don't believe you would need a new EOA, but, and the, again, the goal 14 analysis that we did would also still be sound in terms of looking at the different areas. Those weren't necessarily, very specific, so you need X amount Because the only rule for that is you need twice, the study area has to be twice the amount of land that you need. So ours, if we needed less, then our study area is just even bigger. So the analysis would still stand for the Goal 14 memo, so that wouldn't be kind of wasted, and you would be able to maybe use that same analysis. But the H&A and the HPS would have to be redone under new rules, which we don't know what they are yet.
Okay. Questions, comments?
My comment is it would be, I think, fiscally irresponsible of us to start this process all over again. So move on with what we've got, right?
Okay. Should we maybe take a roll?
Do we need them?
Just for
What?
A
You
what?
can take a consensus.
That's consensus.
Oh, a consensus.
To continue,
To,
continue the process that we're in?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Right on. Thank you, Council. I think I'll just move on. So from there, I'll switch gears to discussion of the efficiency measures. And just sort of as an overview, I won't do the whole long-winded discussion of it, but basically, we undertook this this effort to better utilize underutilized lands that were within our existing urban growth boundary. So sort of to dovetail that question, you know, what ultimately happens if you take in too much land is some of it simply doesn't come into the city and develop as it was intended, and we certainly saw that with some of our industrial lands. So when we looked at our efficiency measures from the beginning, and one of the reasons why we went through this sequentialized process was to really look at some of this industrial land that we had around town that wasn't developing. And by doing both the housing needs analysis and the economic opportunities analysis, we could say, hey, here's our projection for 20-year land supply for industrial and commercial. Here's where we found a deficit or a surplus in industrial lands, and here's our housing need. And in doing that, in doing a rezoning around that, we could take some pressure off the UGB expansion. We wouldn't have to do as large of an expansion if the bulk of our efficiency measures ordinance was such a rezoning. So that was really sort of the upshot that we were looking at. The other piece is it allows the city to grow in a way that's a little more in alignment with Mollalla's values. Other efficiency measures such as we didn't pursue other ones such as increasing density in our zones or height, for example. Things that would be a little bit off with what the existing city looks like. And then the last piece, which is something that came up at the last meeting, is that changing the zoning or comprehensive plan zoning will not affect existing uses within these areas in the urban growth boundary that we'd be doing the zone change for. So, you know, someone who's living on a large parcel of property could continue to do that until they either sold to somebody who wanted to develop it as under the city's designation, or until they changed their mind and decided they wanted to do it. So they'd be able to continue to live on large parcels.
Mr. Zinder, quick question.
Sure.
So that example you just gave, if they sold the property to somebody,
Yeah,
the buyer still can leave the property as is. It doesn't mean they have to develop into the potential of what it could be.
that's correct. Yeah, a sale does not affect
Okay.
the use of the property. It's really only when you the annexation and then the application there. So one of the big challenges with rezoning any of the industrial land within the city is all the industrial land is next to other industrial land. And so, you know, one of the questions that came up that was, I think, very astutely raised by one of our members of the industrial community was what happens to us, and, you know, is there a way to mitigate complaints against us? And that was another, it was another question that we posed to the attorney. because there were a couple of mechanisms that came up. The first would be sort of a, you know, covenants through the CC&Rs for a development, or maybe waiver of remonstrance. And the advice that we got back from the attorney's office was basically anything that would restrict a neighbor from making legal complaints against one of their neighbors would probably not be constitutional and wouldn't pass this sort of clear and objective standards that all residential uses have to, that all residential ordinances have to have. So it would be very unlikely that would be, that those kind of
Restrictions.
instruments would work. And frankly, I don't know how desirable it is to restrict people. You know, it's one thing when you're thinking of it in terms of a noise complaint, when you're thinking of it in terms of a toxic waste dump on somebody, you know, that somebody's, that you would want the ability to of the neighbor to take action and bring that. So some of the other stuff that they did seem to think would pass this clear and objective bar, depending on how we wrote the ordinance. So in our code already, there's a section that talks about what industrial developers have to do when they abut residential zones. And there could be a corresponding section for residential uses abutting industrial zones that they'd have to do. We could basically put stuff in the development code to address, and it would be blanketed. It wouldn't be like next to specific uses. So it would be any residential zone that develops next to any industrial. Things such as setbacks, how far back it has to be from the zone. Requiring noise cancellation features for abutting walls, or screening, such as trees or walls that would cancel noise, that would sort of, you know, block any sort of vision of the site. That access location, so you don't have the access directly conflicting with an industrial use as possible, and requiring parkland dedications to buffer as applicable. These are things that would probably clear and objective if they were written well. Yeah, there are things that would be allowable. So they would probably pass for those reasons. For the last option, it is worth noting that Senate Bill 974 has recently put a prohibition for most design standards for an 8-year period following its enactment for residential developments over 20 units. And so in some cases, we wouldn't be able to apply these standards due to state law, but we would be able to apply them in other situations and to multifamily developments.
So I have a question. So if the people start, say they build over there and they start complaining about the company, they're complaining to the city, right?
Correct.
Are we, as a city, if they're just complaining about noise and their noise is fine, if they aren't doing anything wrong, the industrial people, then we don't have to do anything, right?
No, we would look at our code. And your code outlines, you know, the type of noise from a time frame. You know, it could be that they're making too much noise too early. Well, we would have to talk to them about, hey, can't really start up until, I don't remember what the language in our code says,
Yeah.
but that's what we would do.
We'd have to, okay.
Just because,
What about dust?
it'd be hard to quantify in this town.
I know.
And I don't mean that to be funny, but
No, I know.
it's, Mollalla's a dusty town
Yes,
because
it
of all the
is.
farms.
I just hate to see, you know, an industry that's been here for a while
Yeah.
and get,
But I should add to City Manager Huff's point that with regards to noise, our noise ordinance actually has a exception carve out within the, you know, allowed period for industrial noises made in industrial zones.
Yeah, and that's what it would be based on.
Okay.
Is that. It, you know, we don't tell you all about every complaint we get. We get some sometimes, and
Yeah.
Counselor, the other thing, that getting people closer to that street, you know this, they're gonna be dealing with smells.
Not on that street.
Well, you got Bennett right there, and then if Bennett Septic, they reside right there on Main Street.
No, they don't.
They used to have a truck right out front there. Oh, anyway, but Clink Scales is also on Shaver.
No,
And-
well, yeah, but there's no smells coming from there. The smells are coming from, on Main Street,
Okay.
because we don't dump over there. But yes, I know, I know.
Yeah, get them closer to the issues.
Yeah.
And
And as I'm sure you're aware, in those cases, a lot of that's up to sort of DEQ standards, which you guys pass.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those sort of dust and smell, odor, and things of that nature actually rise to the DEQ,
Right,
yeah.
which,
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody is kind of protected to some degree, okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So I think, so with regards to that, I think it would be helpful for us to for staff to get some guidance on, sort of direction, if we ought to be looking at some of these, residential to, industrial buffers, to the extent that we can enact them.
I would like to see the buffers. I also had a 30-minute conversation with Troy Vest yesterday,
Yeah.
because, we're kind of in a position right here between his land and the sawmill and B&B leasing and Clink Scales. There are a lot of good businesses right there that affect our city, and I did not want to make a decision tonight without discussing it with him. He has, and he said, he gave me permission to relay this, he has no desire to develop. Now, he said when the time comes and it's something he wants to sell the property, doesn't know what'll happen then. But currently, he has no desire to develop. I think setting up the buffers now so that the barriers, these are set up for the future, for when he does decide to sell, or if he decides to cash in on his investment. The only thing he did ask is, if it does ever get developed, is the front section from Main Street to Third, be commercial. And I said, I believe that's already
That's what we
in the
got.
plan.
That is
That's what we got.
But he said he would be very he'd be okay if we approve this tonight. So I felt better going forward in approving this, especially if we put the buffers in place for the future to deal with.
And similarly, this ordinance wouldn't affect, Mr. Vest's ability to use his property as he has, so.
Right.
I agree with the buffers too. I think
Yeah.
we need to have that written into our code.
So general consensus on buffers?
Yeah.
Right, we'll take that as direction. Thank you, council.
Anything else, sir?
Nope, and if you have nothing more for me, I have nothing more for you on this.
All right.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'm gonna adjourn this work session meeting at 6:10 or 6:50. Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Molalla City Council for July 23rd, 2025. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to remind all participants, including staff, elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Audience members, we request that you silence your cell phones and not conduct side conversations during the meeting. Thank you. Up next, we will do roll call, beginning with Councilor Bartholomew.
Counselor Bartholomew present.
Council President Vermillion present.
Mayor Kaiser present.
Counselor Childress present.
Counselor Schenkel present?
Counselor Gilmer present.
Assistant City Manager Matt Corthell, present.
Sorry, Gordon Monroe with Tetra Tech, present.
Planning Manager Dan Zinder, present.
Water Quality Superintendent Seth Kelly, present.
Finance Director Cindy Sharon, present. City Recorder Christy Teets, present.
Dan Huff, City Manager present.
All right, thank you. Does staff or council have any changes to the agenda tonight? All right. Up next will be consent agenda consisting of the city council meeting minutes from June 25th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? All right, Christie, we call the roll.
Certainly. Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
Prior to our regular city council meeting this evening, council met in executive session. The meeting was held pursuant to Oregon Public Meeting Law, ORS 192.6602, letter E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. This item requires further discussion by staff and council at a public meeting. Mr. Corthell, can I have your staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. So the subject of tonight's executive session was Resolution 2025-19, the purchase and sale agreement for Fox Park property in the Hezzy Lane right-of-way. The fiscal impact on that is approximately $40,000 per unit. The school district will be splitting all costs associated with this transaction with the city. There's not a whole lot to say. It's pretty much straightforward. It's a property swap, Fox Park property for the Hezzy Lane right-of-way property, and then the associated easements to give life to that agreement.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt the terms of resolution number 2025-19, adopting the purchase and sale agreement for Fox Park and Hezzy Lane right-of-way?
I move that the city of Molalla approve resolution number 2025-19, a resolution of the city of Molalla, Oregon, approving the Fox Park property acquisition agreement and authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement.
Second it?
It's been moved and second. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, Christie, will you call the roll?
Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0. Mayor, I'd like to make a quick announcement, let the public know that the documents that were approved just now will be available on the website, posted no later than tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next will be a presentation of our water intake structure pre-design. Ms. Corthell, can I have your staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. So this is a presentation on our water intake structure pre-design process and report. Sitting next to me is Gordon Monroe, an engineer from Tetra Tech who's been doing this a very, very long time, and has done great work and really has helped educate staff throughout this process. And so we brought him out tonight to educate you guys a little bit on what this looks like, and hopefully later on in the meeting, adopt the pre-design report associated with this presentation. So without further ado, one save round there, the presentation is in your packet, but it's also going to be displayed up on the screen behind you. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Gordon Monroe from Tetra Tech. Thank you.
All right, how close do I have to get?
We can hear you.
Okay. So we did a preliminary design report that had a whole lot of different aspects to it, and I'm going to summarize it. There's a lot of details in it, in the report, that I'm not going to go into, but if you have questions, certainly I can dig into that. But I want to hit most of the high points. So that photograph that you see is right there, that concrete structure. You'll hear me saying quite a bit through here, the 1992 location. That is what's left of that intake. There used to be a pump station on top of it and a screen in front of it. It's not going. Okay. So this is just a map that shows you where the intake is located compared to where the city is. So it's a little bit east, a little bit south. Where my hand is right there, that's the intake. Right there. Okay. It's not going.
No, that one's not working, huh?
The arrows will probably get you there.
They didn't.
Well, they didn't.
Mm-mm. So this is just a closer picture, and it shows the treatment plant. The intake is pointing to where the 97 intake is, and if you see this little bump right there, about where the X is, that's that concrete structure that you saw in the first photograph. So those two intakes are roughly 150 feet apart, and the pump station is moved to right there. So quite a ways back from the river. How did you do this?
I clicked in the black area.
The black area? Okay. So a little history, 92, the intake was first constructed. In 96, 4 years later, there is a big flood and it wiped it out. This is a photograph of that flood event when the waters had receded. And you can see that on the top there of the concrete structure that it's a pond. So the water went over the top of that. There was a pump station up there, wiped it out. And in 97, a temporary intake was built about 150 feet downstream. The pump station was moved, and just an interesting anecdote, I was actually on that project. I was part of the team that did that. Okay, so why are we even looking at the intake? Here's three of the main reasons. One of them, lots of rock and cobble come down the river and actually cover the intake. The staff has to go down there every year and uncover it. It is vulnerable, so you can see here where my hand is, that is actually the intake screen poking above the water level right there. So it is in the flow of the river, so it can get hit not only by rocks and cobbles, but trees and other debris that come down the river. So it's vulnerable, although it's lasted almost 30 years. Probably the biggest reason from my standpoint as an engineer is the low summer flows. So this shows the screen just poking above the river water level. Anecdotally, staff has said they've seen the water level halfway down the screens. So that's the biggest issue, is that there could be times that you don't get enough water where that screen is located. Now, the other thing you're gonna see in this photograph, and I'll talk about it later, but right here, that is a impromptu weir that's made by rocks deposited during the winter. And it's raising the water level at that intake 6 inches to a foot, which in this case is a big deal. If that rock weir goes away, now you're really gonna be in trouble with the water level at that screen. So that's really the big issue, is you may not have access to water, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We did some modeling. So as part of the study, we took a look at your existing infrastructure, and 4 MGD is what your master plan says that you need for the 20-year planning period. So that's what we looked at to see, do you have that? And is it in good condition? So the short story here is all the pipes and the intake, they have the capacity, they're in decent condition. Your pump station even has the capacity, but it doesn't have redundant capacity. So that's the big issue. And what does that mean? You got 2 big pumps, and if they're both running, you get 4 MGD. You take the biggest pump offline, and you can only pump 2 MGD. So if one pump's down, you can't meet demand. So you want a 3rd large pump. And I think staff is already working on that. So the other part that we were asked to look at was the storage reservoir. This doesn't really impact the intake, but we were asked to take a look at it. And one thing to understand about storage, it's not required regulatory-wise. So if you had 0 storage, you're not going to get a letter from the state that says, what are you doing? But everybody's got it. Why? Fire flow, daily fluctuations. You get peaks during the day that your treatment plant can't make enough water. You make up for it with storage, and then emergency. Rule of thumb in Oregon is 3 times your average day demand in volume. If you're down to 2, you're okay, but probably need to do something. Maximum is 6. After that, you start having water quality problems. So you're about right in the middle, 2.6. But in the planning period, you've got another reservoir in your future. It's not an immediate thing. It's just something to think about for the future. The one issue, the one caveat with this is your reservoirs are doubling as your chlorine contact. So what does that mean? You need a certain amount of storage to get your contact time to meet requirements of the state. So some of that volume is not actually available to you. Because if you go down below what you need for contact time, now you will get a letter from the state because you didn't meet your chlorine contact time requirements. There's some ways to handle that. I'm not going to go into them now. If you want to ask me later, that's fine. But and again, it's not an immediate issue. It's just something you need to know, and something the city probably needs to take care of at some time in the future. Photos of your pump station. You can see you have a 3rd pump. It's a small pump. You can't run a small pump and a large pump together. The large pump will overwhelm it. Small pump will pump, but no water's coming out. It's just spinning. So the small pump is for if you just need a little bit of water sometime. It can run by itself. You can see also down here why we put the pump station where it is. There was a retaining wall right there that protects it from debris coming down the river, and it's a little bit higher. So it's in pretty good condition. There's your intake. You can see it's starting to peak above the water level. That's in summer. I don't know what it's like right now.
Not like that.
About like that, okay. This other picture is really access points to your gravity pipe for maintenance. Yeah, I couldn't get a picture of the gravity pipe because it's buried, so this is the best I could do. So one of the other things we looked at is water rights, and there's two things to know about water rights. How much water right do you have? Is it enough? And do you have access to that water right? So you could have all the water right in the world, and if you can't get to it because there's no water, it doesn't help you. Same thing if you have all the water in the world, but you don't have the water right, you can't use it. So you got to have both. So this is something that the city needs, I think, to look at, and would be prudent to start doing some investigation, because one of your water rights that started at Trout Creek and was transferred to the Molalla is limited to the flow that you can get from Trout Creek, regardless of how much flow is in the Molalla. So there are times, July through October, that you can only get sometimes maybe 3 MGD. And your master plan says you're going to need 4. So it would be prudent to start looking at how do we make up for that? And you know, there's ways to do that. One of them might be going back to the state and saying, hey, can we relook at that water right and that limitation? Any way to change it? ASR, which is aquifer storage and recovery, buying other water rights. There's various ways to do this. They all take time. So again, I think it's prudent to start looking at it. Other evaluations we did some geotechnical to look at the viability of what's called a Ranny well. So big caisson with pipes parallel to the river, some of it under the river, they're perforated, water comes in there, that's your intake. But you have to have the right kind of soils, or you don't get enough water moving through it. So we took a look at that, and what we found is you have a very thin layer of soil that's appropriate, not thick enough to get enough water. So really, the Ranny well is not a very good option for you. We took a look at wetlands. There are wetlands out there, but they're not in a location that would be impacted by any intake project. So you're looking pretty good. Environmental, we took a look at what permits would you have to get, and there's like 6 or 7 of them, both state and federal. And they can take 1 to 2 years to obtain. I just did a project where it took us 1.5 years. And the federal ones, right now, I would say you might expect it to take longer because of some of the cuts that are happening on the federal level. They're going to get overwhelmed with work. So before you can do those environmental evaluations, you have to have about 60% design. You can't just go in and say, hey, I want to do an intake, give me a permit. They're going to say, what are you doing? What's the site plan? What are you doing? What are you impacting? So the reason I bring this up is because it really impacts your schedule, and it also says your existing intake and facilities, they need to stay in place for 5 to 7 years. Come on. There we go. Really?
You got one too far, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. River modeling. So we did a hydraulic model of the river. So the big takeaways, the 1992 location has a deep pool of water that appears to be pretty stable because it's been there since 92, so 35 years or better. That location is also stable. You know, rivers move, and at one point, the river actually went behind where the pump station is now. But at some time in the past, just upstream of that 92 location, there was riprap put around the bend of the river. So when you have a bend in the river wants to move that way. But if you have riprap there, it's going to keep deflecting it. So it makes that location more stable. The river's not likely to move where you have that riprap. And you have that concrete structure right there. The riprap comes right to it, and I think it makes the water swirl, which is one of the reasons that pool is so stable, is that helps to clean it out. There is sufficient depth and flow at that location. At the 92 location, 97 location, you have insufficient depth and potentially not enough flow. So what the modeling shows is that in a really dry year, you could almost go dry at the 97 location. And right now, what is really helping you is that you have that rock weir, temporary, that just gets built up by the winter. That's raising the water level 6 inches to a foot. And that's why your intake still works in the summer. We look at sediment transport, and this one's pretty obvious, but the river does move rocks and cobbles, but only in big events. Small events, it's small silt and little rocks. The bigger stuff only moves in the big flood event, but it does move, and you get lots of other debris coming down. So the takeaway is most of the time, anything in the river is going to be okay, but in the wintertime, you have a risk. And, caveat to that, anything you do in a river, it has some risk to it. There's no guarantees. Rivers, they run wild. They move. You can do things to mitigate your risk, which is one of the things that we're looking at in this study. All right. So as far as process, when we got done with all of that preliminary, we sat down and developed 7 alternatives for potential intakes. We looked at all sorts of screens that we could do. There was fixed slope, there was vertical, there was slope, there was T-screens, there's cones, there's cylindrical, there's also submerged underneath the bed. We looked at all of those. We came up with these 7 alternatives, and then we had a charrette, which was city staff. So Mac and Seth and Sam and Dwayne and myself, we sat down, went over all these alternatives, and brainstormed. Are there any others? Did we miss something? And the intent is, at the end of that meeting, we wanted to come to 2 to 4 options that we were going to evaluate in more depth. And one of the differences in a charrette compared to just a project meeting is that I make sure that everybody gets to talk. So I went around the table and said, okay, Mac's talking, nobody else is talking. Mac, what do you think? And I went around to everybody. So everybody in the room gets to say what they think. We came away with 2 alternatives. The other thing that we did is we had a list of criteria that we were going to use to rate the alternatives. And we talked through those as well. So then I go away and evaluate. And then second charrette, I come back with the evaluation, and we do the same thing. We talk through it, and we go around the room. Everybody gets a chance to say what they think. And it's also a chance to say, hey, we need to do a little more evaluation or not. So it's not a full stop, we got to have a decision right now. It's how we looking? Do we need to do anything else? So the two alternatives both had three things that were the same. One, they're both going to be at the 92 location. And you might think that's where the intake got destroyed before. But there's some differences from what that intake and what we're doing now. The pump station was right there. Pump station's already been moved. It also had the screens out in the river. So we've got some options for doing that differently. We're going to keep the 97 screens. So those ones that you saw the pictures of that are only partially submerged, we're going to keep them no matter what we do. Because then we have two intakes. We have redundancy. If one of them gets damaged, we still got the other one. And we're going to try to get hydro modifications through permitting. Has to go through all the permitting. So where that temporary weir is, we want to put some permanent structures in to keep the water level a little bit higher. But that has to go through permitting. So can't say that that's a done deal. So we looked at two. One's a fixed slope screen, the other one's a T-screen. The fixed slope screen was 4.7 million, T-screen was 4.6. That's within 1.5% of each other, and at this level of estimation, that's the same. I mean, there's too many unknowns at this point. That's the same. And in fact, what I told the city is round it up to 5 million. You don't know when you're going to get this. There's going to be inflation. You don't know what's going to happen with the permitting. There may be additional requirements. It's better to aim a little high. So they're both 5 million, takes dollars off the table as far as decision making. So that's just a picture of the slope screen. So that's a fixed screen, no moving parts. It's essentially parallel to the bank. So where you see that slant, that's the bank. So there's nothing out in the flow of the river. And it's cleaned by an airburst system. Okay, here's the T-screen. So that vertical wall is where the bank is. Now the T-screen sticks out in the flow. And it has some mechanical parts. So the screen actually rotates, and there's a fixed brush, and it rotates against that, and that's what keeps the screen clean. You can also raise the screen up and out of the water. So that's two moving parts. It's a little more mechanical. And you have to have that submerged, so it has to be a little bit deeper. Okay. It's not moving. There we go. So this is in the report, but this is how we did the evaluation. So you can see all the criteria on the left. And then what we did is, and we all agreed on that was the criteria we wanted to use. And then I asked everybody to weight the criteria. So they're not all equal. So I asked people, okay, which one's most important? And I averaged that weighting. And then we scored each one, and then the actual score is the weight times the raw score. And the higher, the better. So what this shows is that the slope screen was the preferred option, and Really, there's two reasons why that came about. One is risk. The T-screen has parts that are out in the flow of the river. The slope screen does not. And the other is reliability. The slope screen is fixed. The T-screen has mechanical parts, some of them in the water. Mechanical parts always need O&M, so less O&M. So those really were the two key criteria that suggested that we do the slope screen. And so that is the recommendation of the report, and I will say that everybody in the charrette was unanimous that we go that way. So with that, I'm open for questions.
Anybody? Yes, sir.
I would just like to say I really like the slope screen. As less moving parts as possible, I think, is the best thing. I really like that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming
Thank
in,
you.
sir.
You bet.
All right, up next will be public comment. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city but not listed as an item on the agenda. Prior to speaking, citizens shall complete a comment form and deliver it to the city recorder. The city council does not generally engage in dialogue with those making comment, but may refer the issue to the city manager. Complaints should first be addressed at the department level prior to addressing the city council. And Mr. Gilbert, I have you coming up in just a few minutes on the topic you want to discuss. Christy, is there anything else anybody else that'd like to talk tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. The public comments that were submitted this evening are only related to item 7A.
Okay. Well, we will move on to 7A then. Ordinance number 2025-07 repeals and replaces ordinance number 2025-05 efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from a type 2 to a type 1 process, and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes. This item is a continuation of the public hearing held on June 25th, 2025. At that time, no council members acknowledged an actual or potential conflict of interest. Council, has that changed for anyone? All right. Mr. Zinder, we are ready for your staff report.
Alrighty. So it's Planning Manager Dan Zinder presenting the staff report for Ordinance 2025-07, the efficiency measures ordinance that...
Could you speak up or get a little closer to the mic?
I'll get a little closer to the mic here.
You can move it over so you're not sitting in Mr. Corthell's lap.
But they like each other.
It's a tight department, you know, what can I
Okay.
say?
Closing it around.
But yes, the efficiency measures ordinance that repeals and replaces 2025-05 and makes some comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes, as well as changes ADUs to a type 1 process from a type 2 process. I won't belabor the efficiency measures narrative too much, as we've done it in multiple council meetings and work sessions, just to have the potential zoning and comprehensive plan changes up for you, and then answer some of the questions that were raised in the previous hearing that led to the continuance. So the first question that was raised at that in that meeting was a question of what happens to property owners in the areas subject to zoning changes that don't want to change the use of their property. And the answer is that basically people that are in the affected areas would be able to continue to use their property as they have. They would not be compelled to change the use. until they went to develop the property and bring it into the city. So those would be the triggers, and point of sale wouldn't mark that as well. So it would basically be when you go to develop, once you're in the city and you go to, put something else on the property, you'd be beholden to the guidelines of the zone that you're currently in. The other question was raised by one of our major industrial users of how, what sort of protections existing industrial users would have, since residential uses would be closer to their business, and potential use conflicts would arise. Notably, one of the results of our economic opportunities analysis and housing needs analysis was that we had a surplus of industrial lands and a deficit of residential lands, meaning, industrial land, smaller industrial properties within that surplus were very unlikely to develop in the 20-year planning period. So the short of it is that in order to rezone some of these to residential, ultimately a couple of the properties were going to end up abutting the industrial properties, and what sort of recourse would we have to protect them. So we looked into a couple of options since the June 25th council meeting. For that, there was one question of if there would be some sort of instruments such as waiver of monstrance or CC&R and deed restrictions that would prohibit abutting neighbors from raising complaints against their industrial neighbors. Those would be very unlikely to pass legal muster. There'd be, I think, objections raised to them, and we consulted our legal counsel to this, as well as put out sort of inquiries to the planning networks throughout Oregon. And the response back was pretty universally that those measures would be unlikely to be constitutional or meet clear and objective standards required for all residential ordinances. In contrast, ordinances that could directly affect properties, residential uses that are built next to industrial zones, ordinances that affect design standards would be likely to beat that bar and not face constitutional issues. So measures such as setbacks, screening, and other noise canceling features such as abutting walls to industrial zones, access location, and requiring parkland dedications to buffer zones between the two uses would be acceptable as applicable. We brought these measures up in the work session that just preceded this meeting, and council advised that staff generally pursue ordinances around those. So we would research and craft an ordinance around ways that we can help buffer our residential uses and from industrial uses, and thus mitigate some of the conflicts that would be between them. So with that, I think I will open this up for discussion and vote on the ordinance.
That's next. Can I
Go ahead, sir.
add just a couple things? So I unfortunately had to step out and take care of some clerical issues, so this may have been covered, and I apologize if it has, but I just want to stress to folks that, for every piece of commercial or industrial land that you guys rezone as residential, you're making a one-to-one swap of how much your UGB has to grow. And I want to make sure that that's clear to everyone. So if you take 5 acres of industrial land that's already in the UGB and turn it to residential, that's 5 less acres that you have to add in the UGB to be compliant with state law. So I just want to make sure that that's really clear for folks, is that this is a swap that will allow you to offset the growth that the state would require to meet that 20-year land supply by adding that land to the residential inventory within the UGB currently. So I think that's a really salient point, so I wanted to make sure that was clear to everyone. Thanks.
And nothing happens unless the property owner decides to develop or sell to somebody who wants to develop.
That's right. Anyone who's got a use currently on their property, a legal use, right? But has a use, and they presumably are. But anyone who's got a use on their property, let's say there's an industrial use in that area that is proposed to turn yellow to residential, they can continue to operate as an industrial use as long as they want, forever. And actually, our code even allows some minor expansion of industrial use up to about 50%, or of any pre-existing use, I should say, whether it's residential sitting in a commercial or industrial zone, or industrial sitting in a you get what I'm saying? So
Right.
they can expand that up to 50%. And so the short story is, yes, no one's gonna come in and say, hey, you're zoned R3 now, you have to shut down your industrial outfit. That's not at all the way it works. It's 100% their choice. They can continue to operate like that as a matter of right. It's not something that the city could even stop them from doing if it wanted to. Not that the city would, but just to be clear on that. So property like Mr. Vest's property there on the right, where he's got several industrial outfits, legal industrial outfits operating, he doesn't ever have to stop using those that way, and he can even expand them up to the levels that are allowed in our code. It's just that if the day comes that he decides he wants to sell off and ride off into the sunset, and for that matter, even a sale is not an abandonment of the use. So he could sell it to, John Smith, who continues to operate an industrial. It's really only when they abandon the use that becomes an issue, and usually, at least pretty much every time I've seen it, it's been intentional by the person who owns the property. They're intentionally saying, hey, we're not going to use this way anymore. We're going to go ahead and sell it to a developer, that falls under this zone, and then boom, we go into developing it, assisting them in developing it in accordance with the zone. So yeah, no one would lose their right to continue using their property the way they are if there's a use on it today, or at the time of the change.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any comments, questions? All right. Public comments for this item is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor or opposition? Mr. Gilbert, please come up to the podium. Or both of you, if you're both speaking.
I'm going to speak about that particular issue, so
Oh,
Well,
more general.
my apologies. What item were you hoping to speak on this evening,
I
sir?
want to talk about the UGB expansion and the population numbers.
Isn't that right now?
No, that would be more related to general comment, but I mean, where we've passed it, I don't think it hurts for the council to hear his comment now, since we've passed that point in the.
Agreed. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah.
that's okay. Come on up and speak, sir.
It's a confusing set of topics. It's,
This is the, you still have his request to speak.
Well, good evening, Mayor Kaiser and members of the council. Thanks for having public comment. And I, many years ago, spent a lot of time in this room, but haven't been here for quite a while. So it's nice to be back. My name is Jim Gilbert. I've been farming and growing nursery stock west of town for over 40 years, and really enjoy being in our rural community and the fresh air and the clean water and the peace and quiet that it brings, and also being surrounded by hazelnuts and vegetable fields and organic blueberries and not subdivisions and strip malls. I've also watched the evolution of the city of Molalla and the demise of most of the timber industry and construction of Big Meadow subdivision and the Safeway shopping center, all of which had big impacts on our community. And basically, we've largely evolved into a classic bedroom community where a large number of the people who live here drive somewhere else to go to work. And I know you're involved in this planning process. I actually didn't find out about it until fairly recently, and I've been doing some research on it and learned some things, of course. I know that it's driven by the Portland State population forecast, and I was sort of dismayed to see that you have chosen to use the old, more outdated numbers rather than the newer ones. And I was struck by the conversation at the working session, the fact that there wasn't any positive comments about using smaller numbers. I personally think that there's a lot to say for that, and I think it's on several factors. I mean, one is, of course, you're going to save a lot of money by not having all the infrastructure that a UGB expansion would entail, for taxpayers in the city, I believe. I know that the Molalla River is definitely taxed a lot, especially in the fall, and the population increase, the first forecast was 50%, and the new one is like 25%, which would not require a UGB expansion and would minimize the effect on the river. Also, probably the most important thing on my mind, because I'm an Oregon farmer, is the fact that you wouldn't have to pay over fertile farmland, which feeds us all, and I think is a big part of our future here and our economy in our area. Is there are a lot of farmers who are contributing to the local economy, and I think that's something that I'd love to hear more positive comments about, because I think it's a very, very important. So that's basically my thoughts are right now, but I'd love to encourage you to consider those revised numbers, and in any way I can help you do that, I'd be happy to do it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak on this tonight?
Mayor, before we move on, for the record, I did receive a statement that was addressed to Mr. Zinder and you all earlier this evening, or excuse me, earlier this week from Mr. Rob Wolfson. His statements will be included as part of this evening's meeting minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, if nobody else wishes to speak, I will close this public comment at 8:01. Up next will be ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2025-07, repeals and replaces ordinance number 2025-05, efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from a type 2 to a type 1 process, and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes. Mr. Zinder, do you have anything else you'd like to add tonight?
I do not.
All right. Having held a public hearing for this ordinance, we are ready to consider a motion for approval and adoption. Is there a motion to approve or amend ordinance number 2025-07, repeals and replaces ordinance number 2025-05, efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from a type 2 to a type 1 process, and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes?
I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-07, repealing and replacing ordinance number 2025-05, efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from a type 2 to type 1 process, and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes.
I second that.
Christie's technical question. Wouldn't that be in first reading, not adopt?
Oh.
It is the first reading. I move to hold the first reading.
Can you amend that to first reading instead of
Yeah,
adoption?
Amend my motion to the first reading and not adoption.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any question or discussion? All right, Christie, we call the poll?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Councilor Gilmer.
Aye.
Councilor Schenkel.
Aye.
Councilor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Councilor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
As we had a unanimous vote, may I have a motion to hold the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2025-07, repeals and replaces ordinance number 2025-05, efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from a type 2 to a type 1 process, and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes?
I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-07, repealing and replacing ordinance number 2025-05.
Can you reread that with second reading and
Okay.
adoption, sir?
I move to adopt,
Move for second reading and
I move for
adoption.
second reading and adoption.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Ordinance number 2025-07, repealing and replacing ordinance number 2025-05. Efficiency measures, changing accessory dwelling unit approvals from type 2 to type 1, process and comprehensive plan map and zoning map changes.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any questions or discussion? Christie, will you call the poll?
Counselor Gilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel,
Aye.
Counselor Childress,
Aye.
Council President Vermillion,
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew,
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, next will be resolution number 2025-17, declaring the city's election to receive state revenue sharing. Cindy, you're up.
Good evening, council. I have before you our annual formality to receive the state shared revenues, which total $1,360,200. Oregon revised statute requires cities to annually declare this amount to council and to the city. The city wishes to receive the shared funds and has provided an opportunity for the public to comment on the use of these funds during the budget meeting on May 21st. The city is in compliance with these requirements, and my recommendation would be to approve this resolution so we could receive the funds.
All right. Is there a motion to approve or amend resolution number 2025-17, declaring city's election to receive state revenue sharing?
I move to approve resolution number 2025-17, declaring the city's election to receive state revenue sharing.
I second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion or questions? All right. Christie, we call the poll.
Counselor Gilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel,
Aye.
Counselor Childress,
Aye.
Council President Vermillion,
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew,
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, up next, resolution number 2025-18, certifying all requirements to receive state revenue sharing have been met. Cindy, you're up again.
Okay, and now before you is, we're certifying all requirements to receive state shared revenues has been met. In order to receive these state shared revenues, we have to make sure that we are eligible to receive these funds. And you have to have 4 or more requirements, and that is the following services of police, fire, streets, sanitary sewer, stormwater planning, and 1 or more utility services. We are in compliance with all of that. So my recommendation would be to approve 2025-18 so that we can now receive and spend those funds.
All right, is there a motion to approve or amend resolution number 2025-18, certifying all requirements to receive state revenue sharing have been met?
I move that we approve resolution number 2025-18, certifying all requirements to receive state shared revenues have been met.
A second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, Christie, we call the poll.
Counselor Gilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel,
Aye.
Counselor Childress,
Aye.
Council President Vermillion,
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew,
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
Resolution number 2025-20, adopting the 2025 water intake pre-design report subject to the amendments provided therein. Ms. Corthell, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. So the city's, we had a presentation from Mr. Monroe from Tetra Tech earlier tonight. I'm going to read you a little bit of background on this project. The city's water master plan identifies a new Molalla River intake as a high priority project. Pre-designed for this work, this project began in July of 2024 and will conclude when the council adopts the pre-design report. Next steps will be design and funding identification. This will take place over this fiscal year and next, with construction expected in approximately 3 years. A more detailed and accurate schedule will be provided as this design and funding phase plays out. A handful of amendments for the final report were not yet formatted into the document at the time of adoption or at the time that I put it up for adoption. They are provided for in the report as comment boxes with red outlines and will be incorporated and formatted into the report at the time of adoption, should you guys determine to adopt this report tonight. So basically what this does, by adopting this report, it gives staff the ability to move forward with the design process and to start looking at the different funding. We've already been looking at funding, obviously, that's, but it allows us to really kind of get engaged with the funding agencies and see what kind of terms and different instruments are out there to fund this project. So that's kind of what this does, and Mr. Monroe provided a good overview of the report. And yeah, if you have any questions, our water quality superintendent, Seth Kelly's here, so if you have technical questions, he's your guy. And if you have questions that are not technical, I suppose I'm your guy.
Want to let the cat out on any of the funding yet?
So, well, we have been moved forward by Representative Bynum's office to receive federal funding of $2 million on this project. We don't know, I think, and Mary, you have a lot better idea of how that whole process works than I do. I know the documents I fill out, and then they tell me when I got to fill out another one. But I assume at this point it will go up to committee.
Right.
Is that right? Okay. So it goes to committee from here. Very good chance it makes that a committee. Most of these projects do, is my understanding. And then it will be voted on by the full House during the spending bill.
Whenever that happens.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's always up in the air.
Yes. We've also been invited to apply for the state's Clean Water Public Projects Fund, which is it's a great program that offers a little bit, well, substantially more advantageous terms than your standard, even your standard clean water state revolving loan fund. So, and some of that can actually be received in grants. We won't know what portion that might be until we engage with them a little bit more. But we obviously didn't want to move forward with that until we knew that you guys were, wanted to adopt this pre-design report and in so doing, select the slope screen so that we can continue with the design efforts.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Any questions, comments? All right. Is there a motion to approve or amend resolution number 2025-20, adopting the 2025 water intake pre-design report subject to the amendments provided therein?
I move that the Molalla City Council adopt Resolution 2025-20, a resolution of the City of Molalla, Oregon, adopting the 2025 water intake pre-design report subject to the amendments provided therein.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, thoughts? All right. Christie, we called poll.
Counselor Gilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel,
Aye.
Counselor Childress,
Aye.
Council President Vermillion,
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew,
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, up next, general business. We did have a topic for future the next council meeting. This kind of Mr. Huff and I have discussed this, and him and I will both be out of town at the next council meeting, but the next council meeting will happen with our council president at the helm and our assistant city manager assisting and leading. So I'd say something, but I don't want to get.
Putting in the B team.
Huh? I was gonna say, Lord help us all, but it can't be worse than with me here. So here we go. So anyway, up next, staff communication. Seth, you got something pretty to show us.
Yes, sir. I was awarded an award this past week at the Aqua Conference. I'll read it because it's a little wordy. 2025 Outstanding Member Agency Project Award, Community Engagement, Wastewater Treatment Plant Design and Construction Project, to the City of Molalla and Seth Kelly. So, It was a really great honor. I was completely surprised. Had absolutely no idea that I had been put up for it. It's a testament to the work we're doing here, not just to me, but as a city, making great efforts, not only in the fact that we're building a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant, but that we're doing the right things the right way, getting people the knowledge as we can of what we're doing, where we're going, what step of the way we're in it. So it's great to be recognized, and again, I think it just goes to show how well we're doing here as a community and as a staff as a whole, because although my name's on it, there's a lot more than me that went into it, so.
Seth, can you tell them what aqua means?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what aqua means, but.
So it's Association of Clean Water Agencies. It's a national agency. We're a part of the Oregon Aqua, and they're a very helpful agency in the fact that they actually work with legislators on getting what I'll call smart legislation on current issues that are coming up, such as PFAS, biosolids, water reuse, things that are sometimes folks hear about them and they're scary, and then they tend to overreact, and they're able to advocate for steady, smart solutions that are feasible for all of us to work towards. So it's very, very nice to work with them. They've helped us as a community out in ways that I hope to continue to explain in the coming months.
Hey, Mac, is there a group similar to Aqua that could help them with the UGB stuff?
Unfortunately, no.
Just a thought.
It would be very nice, though, because Aqua really does do some great
Yeah.
things. That's been,
Well, congratulations.
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 Great job.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Great job to the staff.
I'll continue with my communication with it. If anybody wants to come see the wastewater treatment plant, it's going vertical now, so it's definitely nice to see the progress. You can tell it's picking up. I think I heard a rumor that they may have, Rashi may have some other jobs closing down, which may help our project speed up, which would be great. We're still on time, on target for our deadlines, but it's been nice to see the progress as it goes. I never knew there would be so much steel in that concrete structure, but
It's a lot.
it's pretty impressive to come and see in person.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all your hard work. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Cindy, got anything for us tonight?
I don't think so.
All right. City Recorder Teets, do you have anything for us tonight? Big stack.
It's been a month since we've seen each other. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. So my staff report this evening does include an update on the applications that we've received for the current City Council vacancy. To date, my office has received 4 applications for appointment. Each applicant has been verified with Clackamas County as a registered voter and a resident of the City of Molalla. The candidates are Stephen Roberts, Regina Sheaves, and Casey Vicinius, who are both in the audience this evening. And the 4th is Corinne Thomas McLeod. I will provide a background check consent status to you all at the August 13th City Council meeting. And as a reminder, candidate interviews are scheduled to take place during the August 27th work session. And then next, I wanted to take a moment. I would like to commend this group. Earlier this week, we received attorney advisement regarding OGAC serial meetings information, and it's rather cumbersome issue for many cities. It's difficult and it's restrictive. thank you. We don't have that problem here, so it was very nice for me as your city recorder and as administrators to look at it, message received, and go, we don't really have to worry about that so much here. So I wanted to take a moment to thank you all. Thank you for forwarding your emailed public comments and your citizen concerns when you have them. This allows staff to distribute the communication in a more appropriate way, which helps keeps us in compliance with OGAC guidelines. And more than anything, I just wanted to say thank you for your efforts and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Question on the applications.
Yes.
Would we be able to get them a little bit earlier than when the packet goes out, just so we have time to kind of look over them and spend some time reading them, since we do actually have quite a few applying?
Certainly. There will also be a recommended list of questions for you all to ask. And I would say, I would just suggest maybe together think about, if each person thinks about a question that they really want to ask, let me know what that is, and I'll start kind of collecting what each of your question might be. We don't want to start a serial meeting over that, but I'll put a list together and then send it back out to you, because we have some pretty impressive candidates, so you'll want to be thoughtful about your questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Assistant City Manager Corthell.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening again, Council. So you're probably all wondering, where is my quarterly community development report?
Exactly.
So in an effort to make sure that you guys aren't shortchanged, we actually just had a lot of stuff that was coming in last minute. You saw how some of this stuff was kind of coming in last minute, so we were really trying to get everything squared away. You guys should have that report by the end of the day tomorrow. I'll email it out to everyone, and then we'll get it posted up. And if you have any questions, let me know, as always. So a lot of good things happening. I don't want to steal too much thunder from the report, but you know, I went to OCCMA a couple weeks back, and I'm constantly reminded when I go to those things how good of a staff and council we have here. Things work really, really well here, and you hear the horror stories from your colleagues when you go to these things, and it's just a constant reminder of really how good we have it, and so just how well we're all able to work together, and I really appreciate the trust that you guys put into us, and hope that you know that we trust you as well, and put a lot back into you guys. But I also wanted to commend Seth, so I'm going to make you blush here a little bit, Seth. So Seth came to us as a water operator, a wastewater operator, about 4 years ago. And he came in as our lead operator and then took over as our wastewater treatment plant manager. And then shortly thereafter took over as our water treatment plant manager, because he continued to improve himself and put himself in the position to do just that, and do it with all of the qualifications necessary and the information and knowledge necessary. He's continued to exceed expectations, and that award is just, you know, one example of that. And I want to point out that, you know, Mollalla's wastewater system had been obviously something that was very much in the crosshairs, you know, a decade ago, and Dan and the teams that he's put together have slowly but surely changed that complexion. And as Seth got here, we started to see that next step being taken, and I noticed that in him, which is why we wanted to give him the opportunity to run both plants, because he continued to improve the culture and the way we do business, and show the community that they can trust their city staff when it comes to treating wastewater, and treating their water and getting them clean water to drink, and toilets that flush and don't destroy the environment. So it's just been amazing to watch this next step unfold. You know, this is our third award in 2.5 years, and as they were reading Seth's you know, award narrative, one of the things they pointed out was actually some of Seth's own work, that he said, well, Molalla has both the rookie operator, wastewater operator of the year, and the wastewater operator of the year from OAWU. And he said, well, that's pretty amazing. I mean, the guy who was reading it, that's been in this work for years and years, decades, was blown away as he was reading the warrant for the award. And it just proved to me once again that we're moving in the right direction, and I hope you guys see that too, and I hope that the community can see that the trust that these guys are deserve. They're being highly awarded, they're being recognized. People are coming out here from clean water programs to learn how we do business, to see how we do things, and there's no bigger compliment than imitation. And that's what we've started to see. So I'm going to put that squarely in Seth's lap today, because he's done an excellent job of doing that and making sure that the community knows about it, which is really important, because that trust is so important for the community to have, and especially in those really imperative and crucial systems like wastewater and water. So great job, Seth. You guys will have your community development report tomorrow. Awesome things happening. Yokas Park is looking to open up here at the end of August. We'll get you better dates when we have them. Obviously, Bolander Field, those upgrades worked excellent during the Buckaroo. We got great feedback on those. You've got the new Clark Park Pavilion or gazebo. It's a pavilion, I think.
It's a pavilion.
Okay, she corrects me because I don't know the difference. But anyways, the new Clark Park Pavilion just went up. We're looking to clear the cemetery property so that the your Parks Committee can go to work on looking at what maybe that could become, because you've got a couple of acres of parkland that's just sitting there overrun by 12 feet of blackberry bushes right now, and we actually partnered with Amp Farm to get that all cleared out. So just really good things happening across the board. I'd love to tell you guys about all of them. We'll show them to you in the report, but if you have any questions or want an update, come see me. Thank you.
Any questions? At the next council meeting, you could give a report if you'd like to.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Huff.
Just a couple of things. One, I went to another library task force meeting this morning. Should all join me sometime. But I do want to ask you all a question. For that service, it seems like there's an inordinate amount of controversy that goes around from the district level, the countywide level. And we don't seem to have that here, and it kind of reflects on some of the things that Mac has said. We have a good library. We provided a high level of service. We have excellent people that provide those services. We're not running into financial crises every other day over there. And I think people in this community like the library. They use it. They're there. It's not that way everywhere. I don't know why, but it's not. But you may in the future at some point be asked to weigh in on whether you think the library district should raise its rates. Go out to a vote of the people in Clackamas County to pay more for libraries. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but you guys get to weigh in on that, or whether or not that goes forward or not, because you are a library city. There's some inequities in how much some cities get and how little others get. And so to solve that problem by asking people to pay more, I think is the wrong way to go. I think there's some things that need to be fixed before you're going to go do that. So that may be coming up, not tomorrow, not next week, not even within a few months, but that may be something that when you hear that again, you'll know that subject's going on. Probably at your next, not the next one, the one after that, the second meeting in August, we'll try to bring Joshua Dodson back in here for a report on the police facility. We have a meeting tomorrow to crunch some numbers and things, and so nothing weird, but just We do that periodically, and so that'll probably be at your next meeting. And then as Gordon Monroe was giving the report, I was specifically interested in what the assistant city manager said during the charrette when they asked him to choose which water intake system design we should use.
The sloped.
Okay.
Okay. What did he say? He said the slope.
Are you getting called out?
I think so, but I'm not even sure why.
I'm not sure either.
Thank you, I'm not following
I'm not
either.
following either.
You guys missed it. Okay.
We did.
Anyway, that's all I have.
All right. Counselor Bartholomew,
Nothing here, sir.
have you had any library meeting? Is the
I
library-
have not, I haven't received any invites to any library meetings. I do continue to post the schedule every month for all the activities the library has going, and any other things that, special things that go on besides that.
Can you make sure library staff is inviting him to the meetings?
Their meetings are really only held once or twice a year. They don't meet
yeah.
on a
Yeah,
regular
they
basis.
told me
Oh, okay.
they only have meetings when they need to have meetings. They don't
Okay,
do
I
regular
thought they
meetings.
met on monthly.
No,
My
sir.
bad.
No.
Sorry about
They don't
that.
meet very often.
Okay. Counselor Gilmer,
I forgot my notes, so my buddy is gonna.
we'll get to him.
We're gonna cover it.
Counselor Schenkel.
I don't really have anything either, although I did attend the Music in the Park last night that the library puts on, and it was really good. Mark Seymour, I think is who was playing. It was great, nice and cool. More people need to come.
Excellent. Counselor Childress.
Well, Celebrate Molalla is just around the corner, August 23rd. I looked it up, and the weather says it's going to be 81 degrees that day, so it's going to be wonderful for a park, Saturday in the park. We've got lots of good food trucks, good music all day long, and we still have some space for vendors. If you create anything, if you make anything, have a business that you would like to advertise, you're welcome. And just look on the front page of cityofmolalla.com, and you'll find your directions to get down to Celebrate Molalla and how to get in contact with us.
Thank you. Council President Vermillion.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The Park CPC meeting was held last July 17th, and there was a suggestion that was made regarding youth inclusion or youth involvement in the parks. CPC meetings or committee, and this actual idea came from the granddaughter of one of the parks committee members who has already been attending our meetings, and she has spoken to some other kids, and they're interested also in involvement. Excuse me. So Crystal followed up with Christy to find out, the formalities with regards to youth being involved, and any youth can attend these meetings. So beautification and culture, you could include teenagers also, or youth in particular. So thank you, Lily, for that suggestion. The Park CPC annual garage sale begins tomorrow and concludes on Saturday, the 26th. The location, 321 Chinook Street, and it's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. The next meeting is scheduled for August 21st at 5:30 at Clark Park under the new pavilion. Thanks to Molalla Communications again for their donation to replace the one that was damaged in the ice storm a few years ago. We did bring up talked about the humorous sign at the last Park CPC meeting. That was tabled for discussion later down the road. So nothing's happening on that front. The only last thing I've got, National Night Out, is Tuesday, August 5th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at Clark Park also. So outside of that, that's all I've got.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Mayor Kaiser,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick point of clarification. is absolutely appropriate for our youth to attend these meetings. They would be non-voting members. So they can provide a recommendation to the CPCs, but ultimately, the grown-ups who are the members would be the voting members. So,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, we made it through 4th of July. Everybody was scared we were gonna burn down. We survived. It was actually really nice this year. I think I went to the pancake feed and I went and watched the 4th of July. It was the first year I was actually not in the parade. And it was very enjoyable to watch. Man, after your report, this is a rough one. The August 27th meeting, I would like to put on the agenda a discussion on the continuation of the park CPC. It's coming to the point where we do not have more for them to deliberate on with park funding the way it is, once Chief Yelka's Park is done. And it's getting to a point that with the new OJEC rules, that it's becoming a cost on the city to have city staff there. So, Mr. Huff's gonna be bringing a report on what it is costing the city and for a council vote. The last thing I want to talk about is, since our last meeting, session's over. And at our goal setting, I brought up something that didn't get much traction. And I'd like to bring it up for discussion again at a future meeting. And that is the city looking into a lobbyist. This year, LOC supported some things that the majority of the people in our city did not support with the ODOT funding. OMA did not support it, but House, or is it 974, House or Senate?
That's Senate bill.
Senate Bill 974.
I think it's Senate bill, yeah.
It eroded some more of our city's authority this year. It took away hearings that our planning commission can have. And LOC, OMA, none of them got behind anything on that. And so I'd like to bring it back for discussion. I talked with the city manager about possibly opening discussions up with some of the other cities that align closely with us, such as Canby, Estacada, maybe Sandy, about having some sort of representation down in Salem that is council-driven, that looks after our city, and just having somebody there that can keep an eye and see this stuff coming. This session, I mean, when did it start? January, February, until the end of June. I was putting in almost 40 to 50 hours a week just trying to keep up with everything that was going through Salem. And it's to the point where this, they say we're volunteers. We're not volunteers anymore. We pay to play. When you're putting in that many hours just watching the potential attacks that come on our city. The public testimony that I gave, I mean, every night, 2 to 3 letters a night, giving testimony on, Senate Bill 974, saying this is horrible for our cities. Why are you taking away our authority on how to do our jobs? And all of this doesn't even include, we dealt with pilot program this year, which also, that was something we missed 3 years ago. That took away our authority as the taxing body of the city. I think having somebody down there that keeps an eye on what can damage our city and represent us on some of these things is a healthy thing, because we can't depend on LOC. We can't depend on OMA. especially to make the right decision. OMA, I asked, or excuse me, LOC, I asked why they were supporting House Bill 2025. And they said, because last October at the fall conference, the transportation package was the most important thing to all the cities. Well, the taxes on the transportation package didn't come out until May of this year. And yet they still supported it, without getting a consensus from all the cities. And so just having something there that keeps an eye on for us, and you guys can ask Mac, a lot of times, a lot of these housekeeping things that he brings to us, he gets surprised by them too. They get passed. It's not like he knows this stuff's coming until he gets some sort of notification saying, hey, your city has to do this or that. So, you know, and it would also be a lot different if, you know, we could put maybe next year there's a short session, put a committee together that would be willing to help me with some of this, to help pay attention to some of it, because it is a lot of work. And we have good representation down there with our senator and our representative, but they can't be on the phone with us every time when some of this stuff goes through. So if you can put that on a future agenda, 27th I know will not be a good day, but a future agenda when we're a little bit soft and we can discuss this a little bit further.
I will consult with these gentlemen and I will let you know.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Otherwise, if there isn't anything else for the good of the order, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:40.